Hey everyone, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Olivia, and welcome to Fighting True North. It's the fifth episode and the first one of June. It's an exciting episode because we have Jess with us, but I'm going to go pass on to Ryan to explain the purpose of this web series.
Yes, so Finding True North is all about sharing those pivotal lessons and moments that have helped shape other careers with our guests like Jess and hopefully inspire you.
The reason why we started this web series is because with the pandemic, we have limited access to career advice, career education, and this can be a one-stop virtual shop in order to get that information. Of course, we realize that we're in a pandemic where lots of people are at risk from health reasons, but there's also lots of civil unrest right now. So it's very important for us to stay well, but importantly, to stay safe. Again, I said that we have Jess with us today. Jess and I know each other from university days, back when we were studying neuroscience, going to the gym, doing Insanity. But since then, years later, Jess is now data operations manager at Dyson. So we're very happy to have Jess with us for 40 minutes or so, and we're going to leave Jess to present. But before we do that, I'm going to let Ryan explain how you can ask a question.
Thank you very much, Olivia. So as we said, we're going to have a presentation from Jess and then we're going to have Q&A at the end. At any point, you can submit a question by either using the comments tab or going to slido.com and using the code FTN, which stands for Finding True North. We'll also have a poll in the middle of this session, so we'll prompt you with the code for slido.com and how to participate. But with that, I'm very excited to pass on to Jess. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan and Olivia. Thank you so much for inviting me here today, and thank you everyone who joins and has to listen to me for the next 40 minutes. Firstly, I kind of want to talk about my career journey and typically how I structure things. And if you already worked with me before, I like to call on Simon Sinek's Why, How, What, and that's how I'm going to structure today's presentation. So I firstly wanted to talk about my why. Why am I here today? Why do I try and do what I do? What are my values? Then talking about the how. What is my journey been? And what are the things I've had to overcome on this journey? And then talking about what. What are the things that you can take away from this today? What are the things that you can go and read? You can enthuse about, talk about. To try and enhance your own career. So yeah, that's typically how I structure things. So starting with my vision, it's quite an ambitious vision, but I like to empower people from all around the world to be more than they thought they could be. I think for years I really struggled with my confidence, and I still do, and that's both in my my academic, my social life, and my work life, and it's never easy. And what I want to do today is to advocate the importance that you can be whoever you want to be, but you just have to kind of have that passion and build empathy with people and go and network and go and do those extra things that you didn't think, you didn't think that you could do. So that's the kind of my vision. And in order for me to enable that vision, I've been on a bit of a journey about understanding me as a person. And in order to do so, I've kind of understood my own values and what's important to me, what drives me, what makes me passionate, what gives me energy. And one of the first things that is really important to me is actually loyalty. Being able to surround yourself with honest, loyal people that you can trust, whether that be your friends, whether that be your family, whether that can be actually your colleagues and your team. Loyalty is so incredibly important. And I think it helps drive, cross collaboration. So that's my second one, cross collaboration. If you haven't seen the Netflix Michael Jordan documentary, go and watch it. It's fantastic. He talks about talent, having talent and how it can win games, but actually with teamwork and intelligence, it can actually win championships. And this is something that I always use my team. Communicate, collaborate, and together we can do something for the greater good, and we can do that thing better than you would do by yourself. Growth is so important as well. So I recently took drastic career change, from kind of blue sky thinking to very much like, how can you run a business, operations, and it was because I wasn't challenging myself enough, and I wanted to do something new. So that's something that I always do, learning and growth. And then fun. I literally love fun. I love grabbing a Post-it note, popping it on the wall. How do you make fun out of your work? How do you create an environment that enables you to be authentic, you to have fun, and just do something in a new, exciting way? So they're my key values. So keep those in your mind. You might not all have your own values, but think about, self-reflect and understand what drives you, what makes you passionate. As I said, I was a bit lost. Like, I've been lost in the past. It's not been an easy journey for me. So for me to understand myself and my values is very important to how I drive myself forward. So that's talking about my why, and then that comes on to actually my how. So where has my journey started? Actually, it started from a very young age. I grew up being a bit of a rebel. My brother was very academic and he was reading books, and I was the one kind of playing around, getting in trouble, having fun with my friends. I was never really top of the class. I was very, very bang average at school. I think my GCSE results actually reflected that. And I think it was actually when my mum turned around, she was like, "Jessie, are you sure you're going to be able to get into sixth form?" And I actually took a step back and I realised, oh God, I don't know if I am. And it made me question actually what I took at A-level. And actually the motivations that took me forward, because I was worried about, oh gosh, I'm not going to have a future if I don't do my A-levels. But anyway, so I chose maths, IT, sociology, and business studies, which was at the time that I think they were actually my best GCSEs out of the lot. So I decided to take those subjects. Now, great to be in, doing at A-levels, but when you have no idea what you want to do in the future at that stage, you're like, why am I even taking these? What is the purpose of me doing these subjects? And how do I go forward with that? So I was taking these subjects, and I think the only memory I really have is I used to walk into my IT class with like my pink pencil case, my pink folder. I think there was like 3 women in my class, of a class of like 33, and I didn't really, I just loved it. I loved learning about optical fibers and all of these different things, networks, and I was really brilliant at it. I think out of all those 3 women, we all got, I think, over 90-something% in I got 94% in my end result. But actually, I never went and did IT, because at that time there was never any female role models that I could look up to within that kind of technology space. Women weren't really seen in technology at that time, and I suppose it's probably something to do with the career advice I was given. There was no direction. So I went to university, did my A-levels, and I went to university. I went to University of Southampton, where I met Olivia. I did applied social science, and I didn't choose IT for some reason. I was good at sociology at the time. I really liked that kind of understanding the brain and the way that society works. But fundamentally, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was still lost. I was in this continuum of just not knowing where I was going to do. I didn't know what my just cause was. I didn't know. Anyway, coming back to University of Southampton, had a fantastic 3 years of filled with ups and downs. I think it started, I think my first year was party, absolutely loving life. And I think it was my second year when I really, really struggled. And this was actually a really big changing point for me, because my mental health at the time, I had some personal things going on. And my mental health was really, really, all I could see was kind of the black. And I almost hit I hit a wall, and I didn't really know where to go. And I think this was this was a difficult moment for me, and because I started having panic attacks in university, I really struggled with my anxiety, and I had no direction and no hope in where I wanted to go. And I actually was working, it was quite funny, I was working at Starbucks at the time. I was a barista, like making coffee, loving life. And I was just kind of hating life. I used to ride to work for 40 minutes to get there at 6 o'clock, but I came to work every single day with energy. And that was one thing I knew. I was always this positive person, keep going, be resilient, keep just carrying on, get through this summer of working in Starbucks as a barista. And the one day, this big group of people came in, and it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. I was full of energy, ready to kind of tell my story, make coffees. And anyway, I got chatting to this group of people, and got chatting with this guy, and he was saying, I was like, well, why are you here so early, and why do you all need so much coffee? And it turns out it was actually they all worked for Apple, and there was a new release of the iPhone, and that excited me. I was like, oh, that's different. I've never thought about Apple. I think they're an amazing company, great technology, and I just didn't think at the time that I'd ever have a chance to work there. But I thought, you know what, they're advertising jobs on the website, let's go and have a chance. Applied on the website, and I thought, oh, you had to be really technical, you had to have, you had to be doing engineering or computer science, and you didn't. You got to I managed to get through. I think there was 3,000 applicants, and in the end there was 11 of us who managed to get the role. But what was the most impactful moment for me is the guy that I served the coffee in and made that relationship with in Starbucks. Those early times in the morning was the guy who was the European director that walked in on my final interview, and he came straight up to me and he shook my hand, and he was like, "Hi, Jessica." And I couldn't quite believe it, and everyone in the room was looking at me like, how do you know this guy? And then I got the job. And I think that was a really big moment for me. Is it really changed my life, because they were a company that cared about the people. They were talking about enriching lives. They weren't talking about products. They were talking about, how do you change people's lives for the better? How do you use products to do that? And they talked about the why, and they had that same mentality, same mindset. And I worked with people who were very, very similar to me, and I absolutely loved it. I'm going to come on to my pivotal moment. I think it was that was at Apple in a little while, but they kind of gave me the confidence and helped me on my journey, and they ignited my passion for technology. They showed me that, when there was women that would come into the shop just to spend 5 minutes to show me how to use a user interface, or someone came in the shop to, how do you fix this? And I'd be able to do it. It just gave me the confidence that I needed at that time. So I finished university, and I set out on my mission to go and, well, firstly, travel the world. So I took a bit of a sabbatical, traveled around the world with my best friend, saw different cultures, and all I knew throughout that travel was, I want to come back and I want to work in technology. There was this something in my mind that was driving me towards that. So that's what I set out to do. I worked for a few other companies in the meantime. I actually worked for a company called SecureLink, which are now Orange Cyber Defense. And I actually started there in a sales role. And I really, really wanted to really enhance my skills, my knowledge. I wanted that way in. I was being really resilient. It was a really difficult role, because I don't think I was culturally fit for that role, that company at the time. And I didn't really know where I wanted to go, but it helped me guide my journey into working for Capgemini. Capgemini is a fantastic company to work for. They are full with people with empathy, people who care about you, amazing people, teams, some amazing memories that I've created over the years. And I've just met some fantastic people from all around the world. I traveled to India, France, USA, and the experiences that I had were phenomenal. Anyway, so back to the story. So talking about, I started as a cybersecurity consultant, very technical, hands-on in the system. I finally found my passion. I wanted to start in the technology team. I was working for a guy called Rob at the time, and he really taught me a great lesson about building empathy with teams. I'd been managed by people who were very much managers before. They would exert their authority on me. They would tell me this is the way it is. They weren't open to change. They weren't resilient. They weren't agile. And when I had this empathetic manager called Rob, who nurtured his people and inspired them, it was honestly so eye-opening, because when I worked for Apple, they were all about the, nourishing the people and having that mindset. And then when I met Rob, he really changed my perception on leadership, and how do you nurture a team to make them more come into work every day and be really happy and be really motivated to do what you wanted to do. So that kind of led me on my journey. I started Capgemini when I lived in London, and then I actually moved back to Wales to set up an innovation hub. I was initially brought in to actually go and set up an innovation hub just for the SAP practice. And I was told, right, we don't know what it means, go find out, go and do a load of research, come back and then build something. So I was like starting from scratch. I didn't know what innovation meant. I didn't know how to deliver it. I didn't even know what type of people you needed in an innovation team. So it was an absolute journey. I spent 3 months researching what innovation actually meant. And I came up with this approach all around, okay, we need to pull together all of the amazing things that we're doing around the world into one consistent pane of glass that you can go and enthuse about, you can go and inspire people with. Also, what is the definition of, technology innovation in that space that I was in? I was in SAP, which is like your core clunky enterprise resource platform. And actually, I was looking around the periphery at how do you use AI and machine learning or, robotic process automation to actually innovate on that core. So I was thinking and learning about all these new ways of working, and it was fantastic. I managed to do that for the UK. I was working for this amazing guy called David. He's the funniest leader I've ever had in my life, but also he just inspired me. He gave me the flexibility to go and learn, to go and do what I wanted, and I went and did it. And he asked me to then go and transform all these different countries around Europe. Build innovation leads in 15 different countries, build the methodology of how you deliver innovation using design thinking. And I had the dream job, and it was fantastic. I was flying around the world, going to present to all these amazing people. I think one of my biggest moments was actually facilitating 150 people in Les Fontaines, which is like the chateau in Paris, and it was for Burberry, and that was incredible. So absolutely love doing that. But I think I got itchy feet. I felt a bit comfortable in what I was doing. So I said to David, I want something new. I want something exciting. I have quite a short attention span. So once I've done something, delivered it, I want to move on to the next. I'm always ready, always that kind of that startup mindset about, how could I take things further? That led me on to leading the Embrace program, which is a SAP and Microsoft global initiative about actually how do you move to the cloud. And then I kind of got, it was really weird, completely out of the blue. Well, firstly, I'd like to go back to actually how I landed the job at Capgemini. I went to 2 networking events. One, which was a women in tech event. I remember seeing a woman called Lahala Nasser. She was an engineer, and she was the most inspirational woman. Bear in mind, I hadn't seen any women in tech at that point. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a woman and she looks fabulous. Anyway, so she delivered this presentation. She inspired me. So I applied for it because of the values of the company. And then actually I went to another Insight Day, which was the technical Insight Day. I was already through that process, and I walked in this room, and it was the most daunting thing ever, because networking in particular and putting yourself out there is scary, and I'm very aware of that. But I turned up to this room, and it was full of men, and I was in these stiletto heels and my bag, and I just was terrified. So my basic instinct, right, go for the wine, have a bit of wine, down it, and just go up to the nearest group of people and just talk to them. And that's what I did. So walked over to these 4 gentlemen, went over with loads of confidence, introduced myself, talked about my passion. I wanted to be more technical. I wanted to actually dive deeper in terms of innovation and cybersecurity. And I did the typical British thing and didn't ask anyone their names before talking about, everything else. finally nailed it on the head, and then they introduced themselves, and it was like, hi, I'm Paul, I'm head of the technology team. Hi, I'm Rob, I'm the head of the security team. And there was four men standing in front of me who were the heads of department. And I remember Rob at the time, he said, I'm looking for some really motivated women to join my team. And it was the next week where I got the job. So the power of networking and power of putting yourself out there is so important. And without me putting myself out there, and it's terrifying, but do it, I would highly recommend it. So going back to my actual journey from, Capgemini to Dyson, it was actually a few months ago. I wasn't looking for a job. I was really happy. I was really fulfilled in what I was doing. I actually had some personal things going on at the time. My dad really struggles with his mental health, and I really wanted to be there for him, and personally around there a lot more. And so I made a decision. Actually, I got kind of headhunted for this role at Dyson. They contacted me and said, look, we have your CV on file from a job you applied for a year ago, but can you come in and interview? And I was a bit shocked. I obviously heard of Dyson, amazing company, and I didn't think anything of it at the time, and I just thought, didn't really know much about the company. I'm quite happy at Capgemini, but I spoke to this woman. I've never worked for a woman before, and she was the most inspiring person I've ever met in my life. And she was the global head of data. And we're only meant to have 15 minutes of conversation, and an hour and a half talking about netball and rowing and all of these crazy things, women in tech. And she just inspired me, and I had to take the opportunity. It was an amazing opportunity. It meant that I could have that work-life balance. I could be there for my dad, and I could be there, around as a person. I think that's been my journey, and that's been how it's been, ups and downs. It's not been easy, but one thing that's remained consistent is my passion for technology, where I want to be, and starting to actually believe in myself, and that was the most important thing. So that kind of leads me on to my pivotal moment. I think that I've had a few pivotal moments, but I think Apple in particular are the most inspiring company. They talk about their credo. It's something you wear around your neck that you live and breathe, and they're all about enriching lives. They're looking at dreamers and how to become doers, enabling passion, and actually recognizing other people and uplifting other people. So that's something I really took away from that company, and I thought it was just phenomenal what they do. And I think that leads me on to my poll question. So, Ryan?
Yes, so to take part in the poll, go to slido.com and use the code FTN. The question is, have you ever networked your way into a company? Either yes, I've been to networking events, but it's not led to a job, or never. So we'll come back to this at the end and see what the results are. So back over to you, Jess.
Thank you. So as I've talked about, I think empathy in teams, I think believing in yourself and having a vision or somewhere where you'd like to be, because if you write it down and it's on a wall, you have to look at it every day and you have to believe it. I think that's really important, and understanding your why, your how, and your what. And networking, it's one of the easiest but most powerful but most daunting tools. Force yourself into situations that make you uncomfortable, because that's the only way you can learn. And that kind of brings me on to my recommendations for career. So I've just finished this book, The Infinite Game. I've talked about Simon Sinek, why, how, what. Go and understand that if you work in sales or whatever industry you work in, or whether you work in technology, it's a really good tool for you to understand, one, how to deliver a presentation, two, how to actually talk about and understand the purpose of why we're doing what we're doing, and then thinking about the infinite game, which is all about how do we look at how do we enable courage to lead, how do we understand worthy rivals, trusted teams, and have a just cause behind what we do. Something that I really enjoyed, anyone who knows me knows I'm a very big fan of Angela Arendt's. She was the CEO of Burberry. She was a senior VP at Apple. She does this amazing TEDx, which is called The Power of Human Energy, understanding that humans are the most important things and the most important assets in your business. Go and watch it. And the podcast that has helped me the most in my career is the Squiggly Careers podcast. Basically, it's helped me in so many situations. When I was leaving Capgemini, I listened to a podcast that said how to leave your organization well, and also looking at pay rises. They give you advice in situations, and there's all these great things around career. So if you're ever worried about a situation, go on there, and I'm sure that there's some kind of podcast that can help you. Or alternative, just message me, and I can hopefully point you in the right direction of any collaterals. And 3 takeaways. So being authentic is your USP. It's being different, having a different approach, bringing a new mindset, being you and being kind. That's so important. Bringing empathy to your teams, putting yourself out there and networking. Without me going and working in Starbucks and being friendly to someone, I may have never worked at Apple. If I hadn't have put myself in a situation, maybe didn't need to down the glass of wine, but I felt like it was essential. I would have maybe never got the job at Capgemini. And I think the third thing is set ambitious future goals, but don't forget that you can't just expect that goal to happen. You have to work really hard at what you're doing today, and absolutely slam dunk your job today in order to reach that end goal. So I think that leads me on to the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Jess. Just a reminder for those watching to participate in the Q&A. We want questions from you, so you can either do it through the comments tab or joining us on slido.com using the code FTN to ask your questions. But to kick off, I have so many actually, but there seems to be a bit of you talk about how you didn't feel technical enough. Technology was something which you've kind of ended up in. How did you, I guess, overcome that barrier? Because I think there's a lot of people who go, I'm not technical enough to do this, or I don't know how to do that. How can I be expected to do this big role in this big company to do that? But how did you overcome it? What did you tell yourself?
Do you know what? I thought, if you don't try, if you don't get stuck in, and if you don't have the right people around you that can support your journey, then it can be really difficult. So going into the role at Capgemini, where they were like, yes, you're going to be sat in the technical team doing technical things in the system, and you've never looked at this kind of platform before, it was daunting and I was terrified. But I think actually when I came into the company, I was assured that I went on 3 weeks training. Actually, I went to 5 weeks in India training, and I went to 3 weeks in London, just so I got that baseline of knowledge. And I think it's really hard sometimes for you to give yourself that courage to go and just go and do it. Just go and try it. If it doesn't work, try something new. If you don't try, you're never going to know. So, yeah.
I think that's really, yeah. Sorry, I think that answers the question. Ryan, what do you think? Are you happy with the answer?
Yeah, okay. Definitely.
Now, I wanted to touch upon the contrast between where you are now to how you were at university and talking about that time. It seems to me now, especially, that you found your groove, like you know your key values, you know how to be a good employee, you know what to look out for in others. But especially when going through university, you're talking about, the emotional strength that you needed to have in order to get through those tumultuous times, especially at university, where it's a pivotal time when you're getting to know yourself and what can really push you. And with that, I wanted to ask, how have you built your not only emotional strength, but also confidence? And how do you continue to grow both of those traits?
Well, I think my transition has been, my friends have been literally like my rock through my entire life. Like even when I was young, they were just standing side by side, ready to be my little army. And they personally got me, they got the shovel and helped me through that journey, as well as my family. But I've been blessed with some really great friends, some really great family who've been really supportive. My brother James, he also works in the tech industry, and he always gives me like really inspirational like speeches about things, and he's just great. So I think the people around me, and also just putting myself out there and realizing, I think the fact that I had some really empathetic leaders made me realize that, you know, you can be empathetic and you can be good at your job. You don't have to be a nasty person. You can be a nice person, and you can also lead. So I think that's kind of built my confidence over the years, and actually step by step, the harder I work, the more I do, the different roles I take, the more I challenge myself, that has helped me build my own confidence. And don't get me wrong, like I have my days where I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed, or I don't want to leave the house, or I have a bad thing, but I found my coping mechanisms as well. Like I love running, and I love going and just sitting and reading a book on my own. I'm not a bookworm. I'm more of a visual learner, as I said. But just taking that time for yourself, a bit of self-care, a bit of self-love, having a bit of a pamper night sometimes. So yeah, that's pretty much how I've done it.
So we have lots of questions coming in, but just probably more of a statement, just of listening to you. It sounds like you've had such great courage and your conviction. Although you say that you may not have had the confidence, it seems like whether you knew it or not, you had such a strong why always there, which I think is kind of, that's what I'm getting from this, from you as an individual. That's just more of a statement. So questions. So you've kind of answered one where it was, someone asked, do you have any close friends that inspire you? And you kind of touched upon it already. But I don't know if there's any others that you want to talk about, because you've got your brother.
I think all of my friends inspire me in every single way. Like I take something that they're good at. Like some of my best friends are amazing at sales, and I'm like, I do not know how you have the courage and the tenacity to speak to someone like that, because I certainly don't. And they just inspire me in different ways, in the way that they do something differently, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. I think I've really found some role models. I think Angela Arendts, I've followed her journey. There's also amazing, so there's someone called Jessica Naziri. I actually look at her kind of as an inspiration. It's actually finding a worthy rival as well, someone who you think, oh gosh, they're kind of at the same level as me, but they do it better than me. How can I be better? And it's almost comparing yourself about where do you want to go and how do you get there?
Yeah, I think it's so important, especially moving forward in your career, to have those people that inspire you. So of course you have no idea what path you'll take or what turn you'll take next. And with that, of course, you were talking about how you started at Dyson not too long ago.
Yeah.
And being in lockdown and working in lockdown is tough for a very lot of people, adjusting to working from home. But I can imagine doing that and also starting at a new company is a whole other kettle of fish. So with that, I have a question. How has it been working for Dyson, working lockdown, but just in general, working for a new company in lockdown? You haven't got the 11s where you get to bond over the coffee making machine, or so how's it been, Jess?
So firstly, my transition to Dyson was very different. As I said earlier, it was like blue sky thinking, emerging technologies. Woo, this is great, fun, design thinking, and I made a decision because I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to set my own business up in the future. I'm also like in the process of setting my own website. I wanted to do something different, which is really challenging and things that I'm not that good at. So I decided what I'm not good at, and is that kind of project planning. It's that kind of operational way. How do you run a business? So I made a decision to transition completely in the middle of a global pandemic. Why not? Let's just change my job and go into something that I've never done before, and let's go and experience it. So firstly, the transition from going and doing that blue sky thinking, and then going to, okay, how do I run these programs? How can I manage all the people within the team? How do I resource? How do I optimize efficiencies? How do I reduce cost? it was very like polar opposite in terms of the journey. But I took it in my stride. And then when I arrived at Dyson, I arrived on the week that we locked down. So I got back from skiing and I went straight to my new job. And I had a few days in the office. I actually had a few days in the office, which was great. So I actually met a few people face to face. And then basically, I was working from home the entire time. Next week we were locked down, working from home. Now I was used to working from home, because when I was working at Capgemini, I'd be flying to a different European country every week, and then I'd like work the rest of the time from home. So I was kind of used to that mentality. But joining a new team, having no idea what you're doing at the start of the company, and I think the first 3 weeks I was really wobbly. I was just like, I can't do this. Why have I done this? Like, and now 3 months in, I've nearly passed my probation next week, and I hope so. Fingers crossed. And do you know what we've done is I took the role of like social sec, because I came in, I was like, right, I haven't got much to do, and then everything just went crazy, and now I've just got my diaries back to back all the time. But I decided to be social sec, and what we did is we had stand-ups 3 times a day. I work on 3 different time zones. So in the morning we're on the phone to Singapore. In the middle of the day we're like kind of European time, and then in the evening we've got US. So we have to satisfy 3 different time zones, a large global data services team. And how do you do that? How do you keep people happy and make sure that their mental health is still intact? So what we did, we put 3 different drop-ins throughout the day. So 1 in the morning, at 9, midday, and in the evening. And what we did daily challenges. So there was 3 of us that basically set up this like different board, and what we would do every day, we drop a challenge in the morning at about 8 o'clock, and then everyone was in team A and team B throughout the different regions. And we did cool things like I don't know, bring your pet to work day, and everyone would bring their pet or post a picture of their pet. We did, I don't know, president impersonations. We did, fancy dress. We did quizzes. We did everything. Everything you could possibly do just to keep that energy going. And then every Friday was exciting, because it would be like Friday, like bring a drink, bring your fun, bring your family, which I loved. I loved like bringing your family into work yeah. So I think that's what kept us going, is just keeping that energy. And if you've got people who can like pump energy into people, i.e. me, then it makes things a lot easier. But just, yeah, keeping that kind of that channel of communication open with people, being open about your feelings as well. Like we'd have a daily stand up, and we were like, let's not talk about work on these calls. These drop-ins are literally just for talking about how you feel, what you're up to apart from work. So I think that's what made the difference. Yeah. And then I suppose the transition back to it, who knows what's going to happen. I think the whole world is going to change in terms of remote working. I know that there are organizations that have never worked from home before, and now they're transitioning and thinking, oh God, our people are a lot happier and a bit more productive, which is great. So I think there's going to be like a global change in terms of the way that we work. And I think it's going to make, our lives a lot easier and better, and we'll be happier in the workplace because we'll have that flexibility.
We've got a couple questions which I'm going to try and merge into one, or 2 parts. So do you have any advice on how you found relevant networking events, and equally any recommendations for someone that's looking to change careers into technology? So whether that's events, companies, podcasts, content. I know you've spoken about some of it before, but there's a lot out there, especially digital content at the moment. How are you filtering through it?
So in terms of the network, I'm part of 2 networks which I absolutely love in Wales. One's called Warrior Women, which is, Warrior Women, and then we've got Tech Women Wales, which basically both amazing networks. I actually put myself out there. I was on Instagram. Instagram's a really great place for looking, and also Eventbrite. If you've got things going on in your area, go and be curious, go and have a look, and just take yourself away from that. So that's the kind of the first part. What was the second question?
So any advice on changing careers into technology? But I guess a follow on of what you just said, obviously events when it's physical.
Yeah.
happens a lot, but obviously in COVID, like what are your other opportunities? What are you doing now which you can't do usually?
I think I'm doing a lot more. I go on LinkedIn a lot, and there's a lot of really great content. What I do, I follow different hashtags. I follow like women in tech, innovation, inside Dyson, so I can understand what do I enjoy and how do I filter that, so I've got the relevant content coming through. So I really recommend, I actually read a lot of articles from LinkedIn and I find them really interesting. And yeah, I think linking up with the right networks that can tell you about these different ways of working, different networks, or different just different information, or how do you transition into a new role. There's loads of content out there. It's just finding people that you can maybe have a chat with as well. So reaching out to people who you might meet on Instagram that, you know, a part of a tech network, but you can ask them questions, you can ask them about their journey. Using the power of social media is really great, especially when we're in a global pandemic. And then I think the final part about transitioning from into the technology world is it is difficult, but if you are set on doing it, go and network. So I go on LinkedIn a lot, you know, build your network on LinkedIn, reach out to people, use the people that you know as well. I know that my friend, you know, recently, well, she worked for Gartner in Australia, and now she's using her contacts here and in Australia to try and work, you know, in London. So it's using the contacts that you already know. I've actually been helping someone get a job at Capgemini. She's just been offered a job. I'm really proud of her. And to be able to help someone on their journey, it's just so important. So find someone who is in that industry, have a chat to them, ask them about their journey. Are there any people that she knows, or are there any networks that she'd be interested in? And just go put yourself out there.
I think that's really great advice, especially in the spirit of fighting to Northern, even the Tech Allies Network, just to be that helping hand for the next generation, or even just your friend or your peer. I have got another question, but Ryan, what's the result of the poll? Because I don't think we've covered that yet.
You've got ahead of me. I was just about to talk about that.
Great.
So I was actually quite surprised. So we've had 44% have said yes, that they have networked their way into a company. 33 have said I've been to networking events, but it did not lead to a job. And then 22% are saying never.
Oh, but that's good. Maybe things are changing.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I think so.
No, but
Or we've got very sociable people on the call.
Yeah, certainly. Especially down in lockdown, we have to network. It's one of the ways that we can still form connections in some way, business connections in some sense. With that, and maybe this will be one of the last questions. Of course, coming into university, you did apply social science, pivoted into a tech role, and now you're managing a technical team. You said in the off call that you've done Agile and Scrum, but how has it actually been like managing a team where people may be more technical than you, and how do you deal with certain circumstances with that, and how do you still get the trust of the team otherwise?
So I think it's very clear. So there are so many people that I work with who are just completely on another level technical to me, but it's being very open and honest from the forefront, saying this is my role, you know, I'm going to be Scrum Master, or I'm going to be leading this team, I'm going to be project managing, these are my roles. I don't understand all of the technology, and just being honest and being like, asking questions. If you don't understand something, don't sit there and wait for someone not to tell you and you don't understand. No, don't do that. Say, can you just maybe explain what you mean by that, and then get them to explain that to you. And I know you feel like it's embarrassing, but actually, if you're managing a project or if you're managing a team, you need to understand, you know, you don't need to know the technicalities of something down to the very, very core. You just need to know at high level to understand, how do I take things forward? How do I unblock blockers? How do I make sure, you know, the people are doing things in the right way, and how do I know that the framework is actually being delivered in the right way? So it's making those strategic decisions, being honest with your team about your role in that, and saying, look, I'm not as technical as you, but I'm trying to learn, so please just try and dumb it down for me. And it's worked over the years. I'm working, so I suppose my role now, I've never worked with data before. I'm working with a load of data engineers and data scientists, and I'm like, I don't get numbers, and you're going to have to dumb this down. But what I can do, what my skills are, I'm really good at strategy. So you give me a problem, and I'll go and help you plan to solve that, and try and come up with a new way of thinking, or how do we resolve things. So everyone has their own skills. It's just knowing what you're good at and being really open with the people that you're working with. So.
Just, I know we said that would be last question, but I'm just going to add one more which someone's asked. What is your role if you had to sum it up at Dyson? So data operations manager.
Okay, so so I'm like chief of staff for the global head of data, which means basically making sure that everything is running like a well-oiled machine. I manage program managers, project managers, as well as a BI team. So I've got offshore BAU resource. There's about a team of 7 which I manage, but also there's a load of program and project managers. So that's the kind of remit. But then also I think there's a wider piece around enabling the rest of the global data services team, and keeping them happy and inspired, and it's just that coherent kind of group of people. But yeah, that's typically what I do. But from a day-to-day, it's crazy. I'm managing a global program at the moment. I was actually brought into a COVID project when I first arrived. I'm doing this whole, how do we optimize the service that we're delivering to the rest of the business? Then it's never end. And then I'm like doing loads of stuff around how do we make sure that people, within our team, but also wider, how do we make sure that their mental health is okay through this crisis and going forward? So I think you make your role. I've always made my own roles, and I think they always expand beyond what the kind of job description is. And that's, make the role what you want it to be, to make you happy and make you feel fulfilled. That's my advice.
Yeah, and definitely on that note, I have to thank you once again, Jess, for being involved in this project. Of course, all of us are very busy, but joining a new company and trying to find your footing takes a lot of dedication to spend some time with us. So thanks very much. And I'm going to now tell the audience what will happen next. If we go to the next slide. Great. So if you enjoyed Jess's episode and cannot get enough, we're going to be summarizing this web episode via PDF. We call it an episode highlights document, and that will be published on the Tech Allies Network website on the Friday, the 5th of June. On the URL that you see here. And next episode, we're going to be starting again next Wednesday at 5 o'clock. We're going to have Emma, who is a senior PR executive, and she's going to be telling us what PR is all about, and effectively maybe how it's going to be changing for the future. But Ryan, any final words?
I just think it's been a great session, especially to hear, like, you embody Simon Sinek in terms of the why, how, what, the golden circle. I think it's called the golden circle. So just a massive thank you, Jess, for joining us. It's been great. We'll see everyone next Wednesday. So
yeah, bye.
Thanks